Hello and welcome to the Securosis Firestarter. I'm Rich Mogul and this is May 4th, 2015. It's Star Wars Day, except as one of the other parents of my kids informed me, I'm a bad geek because I forgot to wear a Star Wars shirt today. I wore one yesterday and we went to the Lego store and bought Star Wars stuff. Maybe that helps. I don't know. Anyway,
If you say May the Fourth be with you, you'll be fine.
yeah, may the 4th be with you. All right, so that's Adrian Lane and Mike Rothman. So.
To be honest with you, I've lost my geek card because I had no idea it was that. I woke up and said, "Oh crap, it's May 4th." Great, didn't think twice about it.
Yeah, I forgot about it. Yeah, until I woke up. We did Star Wars stuff over the weekend though, so it's not like
I did saw the Avengers, saw the big, the trailer, the Star Wars trailer in IMAX 3D. Awesome.
Ooh, wow,
awesome. Like, it was emotional for an old guy, to kind of see that. So
will it be a Securosis holiday when that comes out?
I think it is.
Yeah. I'm taking the kids out of school, so yeah.
Yeah. All right. Unfortunately, we do have an accelerated time frame because of life, right? So we probably should get to it. What are we talking about today?
Yeah, we're gonna do our RSA wrap up. So we do all this crazy prep work. We go out there. It's a big week. Obviously, RSA. It's either the biggest week of the year for some of you, and just an absolutely meaningless week for the rest of you. It just depends on what you're up for. So, no, it's pretty interesting. As always this year, I think there were no surprises. I don't think there are surprises in something like this. Although the numbers were pretty good. What was that, Mike? You heard?
33,000 attendees, up 25-something%, 400 plus, maybe close to 450 exhibitors, up another, 25-30%. Yeah, evidently this security thing, cyber all the things, is kind of a thing. Right, so security is happening, and again, maybe we're good, maybe we're just lucky, but if you're listening to this video cast or watching this video cast, you're in the right place at the right time. So enjoy it, because soon enough somebody's going to smack you upside the head because you're not getting something done. So it's again, I think, a good time to be in security, and I think we saw that just in terms of the health of the business. But one of the things that kind of really struck me, especially early in the week when the WebSense private equity, WebSense Raytheon private equity deal was announced, was just how far ahead of kind of the requirements and the maturity of the solutions the industry machinery has gotten. Right, and I think that's kind of a real bifurcation that was certainly very clear to me at the show, which was, I don't think the fundamentals of the business have ever been better in terms of the need for what we do, the importance of what we do. I think obviously we continue to have some work to do on how we do it, but why we're doing it and who we're doing it for is pretty clear. And then there's the industry machinery, which is 30,000, 35,000 people at RSA, multi-billion-dollar acquisitions of companies that went for half that, less than 18 months ago, right? So you're starting to see some overheating, and the market always values stuff ahead of, kind of the reality, but I think we may be, kind of way out over our skis on this one. So that was just an obvious trend that I saw at the show, especially hanging out with a lot of the investors on Monday at the America's Growth Capital Conference.
Yeah, it's kind of Dave Eitel runs the Daily Dave. It's kind of a security researcher email distribution list, and he put out a post, and I don't always agree with everything that comes across the list, but it was talking about kind of this East Coast, West Coast sort of view where, as somebody like himself coming from out east and coming in from the hard research side, and they've got a product and a company as well, seeing that the ridiculousness of the floor. That's not a criticism. That's a reality. I mean, it's just ridiculous. You walk down there, and I was only down there for an hour for 2 meetings. I mean, that was I didn't get much more time. But he to him it was just this constant churn, and as an offensive security guy, all of it's worthless in his eye, because now he's on kind of more of the leading edge. But you do look around at all of these tools and all of the kind of technologies there. And really, without the right people, without the right kind of program and focus, none of those things have a chance. I mean, they just don't. And everybody's looking for that magic box to kind of solve their problems. And I'm not saying all the products are bad. There's plenty of decent ones out there. They can work. They're used properly in the right context. But that's certainly not how that stuff comes across, during that week. And I think it is an issue. So everybody's looking for the next investment. There's that whole investment side that you brought up, Mike. Everybody's looking for the next investment. Everybody's looking for the next company to pop and who's going public and all the Silicon Valley, and I'm referring to the TV show ridiculousness that is way closer to reality than I think anyone out there wants to admit. But on the other hand, there's the fact that you've got security professionals that have to defend their stuff, and in many cases, they struggle to get the information they need, the time to learn the skills they need, the resources that they need. So it's a really interesting, and I think it's just going to keep cycling through. I don't see anybody getting ahead, or hopefully not any further behind than we already are. It just looks like it's just going to be this constant state of churn.
Come on, you guys must have been impressed with the number of people there, though. Even me, who've been there, since what, 97 was my first show. I mean, the number of people is just staggering. A lot of it, it's nothing new. It's just the scale of it is just so impressive. The numbers are so impressive.
Yeah,
yeah.
But separate
out Oracle Open World.
Yeah, right, or
Dreamforce like
or any of these these other places where, but listen, the reality is, the RSA conference is 3 times as big as Interop now. Think about that for a second, right? It's 3 times as big as Interop in Vegas. So, again, we're in a good spot, right? From an industry standpoint, security is at the center of a lot of what we're doing. And as we have said on the Firestarter many times, we've got the visibility. Right? What do we do with it? And again, if you go down to the show floor and you look at what any of the messages that are coming out of the industry, it's like, well, just go to senior management and say, we have math now. Right? Math is the savior of everything. So we can do math. So therefore, we will find the attackers and protect everything. And when we screw that up, we have forensicators who can go and forensicate on things with all these new other shiny tools that we have. So when we talk about the technology side of things, we've had what, Adrian, remember back in the late 90s there was always the year of PKI. Well, this year was the year of math. And it was the
big
rise,
math. Come on.
Big math, right? And the rise or revenge of the PhDs. Those folks that studied math for 4 years or 8 years, and you look at them and go, "What the hell's the matter with you?" Well, they're going to have the last laugh on this one because math is going to save us all.
Let's put things in perspective. There are shows, Oracle Open World. I don't know what their numbers are, but they have to close. What is that, Market or Mission or whichever street that is?
Yep.
In between, just because people are running between Moscone North and South. There's multiple conferences. There's 2 or 3 like that a year. We're not one of those. The Phoenix Comic Con, I found out, has like 100,000 people. And that's only the 6th biggest Comic Con in the country. The kind of visibility that we're getting and kind of the nature, people see it as CSI Cyber. They don't see it as kind of the reality that we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. So as much as we all get excited, we're talking about big time and visibility and everything else. It's true, but there's also kind of the downside to that. So a lot of that gets wrapped up as much in investment cycles as it is what tools are actually needed for organizations to defend themselves. We still have a real skills issue across our industry, and that is probably the bigger problem. There's no tool that can kind of go ahead and fix that yet. And I'm not trying to say all this to be a downer, just the fact that we got to keep that stuff in perspective about where we are. We're getting the visibility, but then we've got asshats running out there and saying that they know who hacked who and actually getting it wrong and not caring because it's good marketing for them. We're losing credibility in many cases. And then the political spectrum of this is just what's going on in Congress and everything else is also it's nuts. And the way the laws are written, and then we have an industry that has lost credibility, and yet the lobbying efforts that are involved with this. So. It's pretty messy, and I think it's the chaos that gives you that opportunity if you kind of keep your focus and don't get distracted by all of those things. But that's not always the easiest situations to deal with, and not everybody's always prepared. So I always get wrapped up. That week we have a great time. We do a ton of work, and we get you walk out being all jazzed and excited. But I think we also need to step back with a little bit of perspective, how does the world perceive us? How do our organizations perceive us? What's our job, and what do we need to actually execute on our jobs is really what matters the most.
And nothing has changed coming out of RSA
No.
relative to that.
No.
Right. And I think that's your point, Rich, is that, we still have the same fundamental issues. We still have, the same challenges in dealing with, kind of increasingly sophisticated adversaries. None of that's changed, right? But I think that what has changed, and again, guys like Adrian and all of us, right? I mean, we've been at this show when it was, 300 people sitting, kind of in a fairly small hotel actually talking crypto and early, kind of two-factor authenticators, right? That was the, that was the state of the art back in the mid 90s. And obviously we've transcended that by an order of magnitude. And again, I think that's great. I don't see any downside to the fact that, expectations are higher now, because for a long time we couldn't communicate what it was we were supposed to be doing anyway, right? What the actual mission of what our jobs were about had always been hard to communicate. We don't have that problem anymore. Doesn't mean we don't have the same other problems, right? But I think the perception game or the perception challenge is over, right? So now it's really about what are we going to do with this spotlight that we have? How are we going to deal with, as you said, right? The number one issue we all face is, where we're going to find enough people to actually, meet the requirements and the to achieve the mission that we've been tasked with. But these are growing pains, right? And you look at any other kind of industry, and they'll always go through this. At some point somebody figures out what you're doing is important, and then you've got to scale, right? And we're at this point now where scaling is very hard because it is still driven largely by people and intellectual capital that happens to reside with folks that walk away, when a consulting firm comes in and gives them a better offer. So these are things that we have to manage. But relative to the discussions we were having 5-6 years ago, which was, nobody knows what the hell we do, and Aurora hadn't happened yet, so we didn't really understand what was at risk. We're in a much better spot, but now it's our job not to screw it up.
That was my one big takeaway from the conference. I was actually I didn't talk to many customers there, but the ones that I did, they were talking about, okay, this is what I'm putting in my board of directors presentation next week when we talk about security. That they are now starting to overcome the mentality that we bought this particular product and it should have addressed that problem permanently. Because most of their management team had that same silver bullet that if I invest in this security technology, that security problem is done forever. And so they're finally starting to get it, that it's more than one piece of the puzzle. And so they're addressing the people problem more than they are addressing the the security product problem within the companies.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting. Draw parallels to, I probably still overuse this a lot from my paramedic days. If I look actually at the standards and practices, over 20 years ago versus today, and the changes in maturity. I mean, there used to be no consistent national exam. State exams were horrible. And some of the techniques we were taught were bad and were kind of known not to do any good, and were still used because they got pushed through. And some of that might have been related to equipment manufacturers. There's something called mass trousers. It was the G-Shock pants that they would use on the airplanes, on the jet fighters. And we were trained in the old days to use those because it would squeeze the lower body, increase pressure in the upper body if somebody was, had blood loss related to a trauma. And they were experimenting that with back in Vietnam days. But let's be honest. I became an EMT in 90 or 90 or 91, and a paramedic in like 93. That was a little bit after the end of the Vietnam War, and then they were still in use. And all it did was squeeze the blood here, so it would come out of the holes faster up top. And not quite the effect everybody was worried about. And to this day, there's still in some state protocols and on some ambulances. And everybody's looking for that next piece of gear. Everybody's looking to get it into the standards and certifications, because then everybody has to have it. It becomes that kind of essential equipment. Drug companies, same things. We don't even use half the drugs that we used when I was initially certified. We use different drugs now, and some of the stuff that we did use are known bad. Some of the things I did to treat people, I now know probably caused more harm to those patients just because of the advancements in knowledge and science. And that's just one small area. And don't even get me started on like doctors and how few of them actually base their treatments on science these days. So we can take any industry and we can rip it apart. And when you have an industry, a profession, and a community, which is what we have, that's what medicine has. That's what not every field has, but we have it here. And you have all the intersections of that. It gets pretty interesting. RSA presents, a lot of the industry, and then some of the profession, and some of the community side as well. We don't even have time to talk about the crowdsource track and the blogger meetup and all the other interesting things that they're trying to do now. There was actually vulnerabilities and not even vulnerabilities, there were security researcher like black hat style headlines over RSA this year. Somebody got pulled off an airplane because he had been researching airplane security and was supposed to speak at the event. It's just crazy stuff like that going on now. So it's pretty interesting. If anyone just says, hey man, it's just another year, more stuff, things keep growing in a particular direction. When you get a TV show after you with Patricia Arquette, however shitty the show is, doesn't matter. That's how the world perceives us. When I'm at Target and I'm like, mentioned something about Apple Pay with my phone at a cashier, or something came up because she said, "Oh, we don't have that yet," and I'm like, but then she was scared to use it, and I said, "Well, it's the most secure payment system out there." And this older lady's like, okay. Just not believing a word coming out of my mouth.
And then she paid in cash.
There's no possibility this complicated electronic thing can be more secure than cash or the magnetic stripe credit card. That's it. This is part of society. We've been talking about it for years. It's finally hit, and I don't think any of us can predict where it's going.
Correct.
Mic drop. Boom. All right. So we've all got our other meetings coming up. By the way, if you guys have a chance, we've cleaned up our research library. Yes, Mike and Adrian, it got fixed over the weekend. So we've actually made our content on our white papers and stuff a lot easier to find. So securosis.com/research. All these fire starters are up there now as well, and collected. And we got some more organizational stuff to do to make that part of the site work a little bit better. But as we keep putting our papers and everything up, it'll be much more up to date, and you get previews and everything. So it's kind of nice. And that's it for pimping out the Securosis stuff. Anything else, guys, or should we close it up?
I think we got to close it out.
All right. Thanks for joining us, and we'll be back in another week or two.